Hello everyone, my name is Eli Raber. I'm the Director of California for Consumer Technology Association. I always like to get a sense of who is in the room. Do we know if we have any member companies of CTA in the room? How about who here has been at CES before? Okay, a good amount. So you'll understand a little bit of what I'm talking about and hopefully learn a couple new things. So Consumer Technology Association, who are we? Well, we are the U.S. Trade Association for the Consumer Technology Association, representing about $400 billion in industry, more than 15 million U.S. jobs. More than 2,200 companies are members of CTA. These are your tech giants. About 20% are large corporations, 80% are startups and small businesses. So we really represent the entire industry. And we are the owners and producers of CES. We are proponents of innovation. We champion entrepreneurs, technologists who are molding the future. CES, this is what we're probably best known for, happens the second week of January every year in Las Vegas. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. If you have been, please come back. Here's some of the trends that we noticed at 2019, and I think for 2020, it's really going to magnify, especially around 5G, artificial intelligence, vehicle tech, digital health, ARVR robotics, right? The list goes on, and resilient technologies too. These trends will continue over time. We'll see some new ones. We're introducing some new things into the show we do every year, but some of these were previewed or early in 2019. We're going to see far more of them in 2020. So a lot of folks talk about now we're entering the fourth industrial revolution, right? The first was harnessing steam, second electricity, third computing, and now the fourth, which is the blending of cyber, physical, biological, the cyber physical sometimes it's called. And the experts are saying that the fourth industrial revolution will be exponentially greater in difference between the second and third. So what that means is if we think back of what has happened in history since the advent of electricity, what has happened since the advent of computers, and the fourth industrial is supposed to be exponentially greater, it means for humanity and the world and the universe, we're really in for some interesting times as technology advances, which from my industry, we're excited about the innovation, we're excited about the startups, we're excited about the new technology that's going to be coming to support this new reality, this new future. I'm going to focus today on these 5 categories. 5G and AI, we call ingredient technologies. We think these are what's going to power this fourth industrial revolution. And we're seeing some interesting applications in vehicle tech and ARVR, and the startup space is really sort of owning that innovation. So 5G, we've heard a lot about it. It's just starting to roll out. We're even talking at CES about 6G and what that looks like. But for me, 5G, I didn't quite relate to it. I didn't quite understand the impact of it. And then I went to, in San Francisco, Verizon has an innovation center. And they have a demo there that highlights 5G. And it's a steel plate with 3 robotic arms underneath. And they have it in 4G mode, and they drop a ball. And the robotic arms try to balance the plate. And you can drop it from different distances, throw it at it, all sorts of things. And it struggles to balance it, and more often than not, the ball rolls off. They switch it in 5G mode, drop the ball, and almost instantly it's balanced. There's no latency. Well, no, but very little latency, and a great improvement over 4G, which will enable self-driving cars and enable all sorts of future tech to be able to work the way that they're promised to us. Highlighted here are the industries that we think are going to be most impacted in a positive way by 5G. And these are the things that impact our daily lives. Healthcare, automotive, manufacturing, transportation. And there's opportunities for these other industries to embrace this technology And these are ripe for disruption also with startups to find new ways for construction, right, to harness these technologies and to rapidly sort of develop that industry into the future. AI. So is one of these other ingredient technologies that we talk about. And we're going to see it in automotive computing. We're seeing it now in consumer devices in our homes. I'm going to focus a little bit on healthcare today because there's some really interesting AI applications there that we're seeing. We're seeing diagnostic systems that can detect lung cancer better and faster than doctors. Like the previous presentation before me talked about how AI can impact there, and we're totally seeing that. We're seeing wearables that can detect nighttime seizures, predict them, and alert caregivers. I mean, that's incredible. Orcam, a member company of ours, has this device that you clip onto your glasses, and it helps the visually impaired read, recognize faces. It speaks in their ear. So all you do is point, and it'll read whatever you're pointing at. As somebody approaches, if they're in your contacts, it'll say, Jane's approaching. And so it's incredible technology. CTA established an AI healthcare working group. Member companies meet together, big and small. We're working on standards, working on data privacy, data management issues. The networking is phenomenal opportunities for big and small businesses to work together and to really help drive and mold this part of the healthcare industry. Vehicle tech. This is something I'm very excited about, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. With 5G and AI, we're going to see a lot more of this V2X communications, right? So your vehicle to other vehicles, vehicles to intersections, vehicles to smart cities, vehicles to larger networks. And this will allow us for better drive time, better commute time, safer streets, and all sorts of wonderful applications. And looking at the future of mobility, the ride sharing and car ownership space is going to change. We'll soon be able to summon an autonomous electric vehicle in different configurations to come pick us up. I mean, I'm thinking of loading my family in one of these and driving down to grandma's house in LA. We load up at 10 p.m., summon the thing, put our sleeping bags in, and off we go to grandma's house, right? And I don't have to drive, change road trips forever. And it'll also provide accessibility for folks who have physical disabilities. It'll just open up the environment. And in the near term, we're going to be seeing a lot more electric vehicles. So right now, Tesla, Nissan Leaf are the main electric vehicles that you see on the road today. In the next few years, all the major OEMs will be coming out with electric vehicles. Tesla's Model 3 really proved the price point. And so, these are going to be accessible for most people to purchase. And that will wind up becoming ubiquitous over time. So those are some of the things that we can expect in the near term. And I think before we see self-driving vehicles in our daily life and before we purchase them ourselves or ride in them, I would say exclusively, what we're going to see more often are self-driving long-haul trucks on the open road. And I think that's going to be the first place we see mass adoption of self-driving, and then it will enter our sort of cars and our personal lives. And it's not just because it's cool. It's not just because it's great tech. It's not just because 5G and AI are wonderful. This really does save lives. A lot of tech we hear, I go to a lot of pitch contests and they talk about, this is going to change the world. And sometimes it is. But for the most part, it's just a nice talking point. But this really will. 37,000 people die a year in the US in car crashes. And 94% of it is human error. So this really is an opportunity to save thousands of lives a year by leveraging this technology. At CTA, we have a self-driving vehicle working group, again, made of member companies, focusing on policy, making sure that there's innovation-friendly regulations, educating consumers, lawmakers, and really advocating for the benefits of this technology and helping to drive innovation, drive for self-driving and driver assist technology to help that industry form and advance. ARVR, so here's a couple examples of things that I pulled out that I thought were particularly interesting. Up at the top of the elephant, that's Disney's Magic Bench. And what's interesting about this is one of the first examples trying to remove the headset. This is an AR experience that you can share with other people. It's sort of an installation that the bench is loaded with technology, and so it's not like you can just do this at home unless, I guess, Disney wants to start selling benches. But this is an interesting example of what the future could have. Right now, we wear headsets, and it's a singular experience. Maybe through a connected device, someone else has that shared experience, but it's not without a headset. So this is that first example, which I think is cool. And I was trying to find it online, but I couldn't find a video of this. But Disney's also working on AR at their theme parks, where wearing glasses, I can choose an avatar. I can choose whether it's Luke Skywalker or Mickey Mouse to be my personal tour guide and take me around, and I can ask him questions, and only I can see and engage with Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. So that's one of the interesting other things that's coming on. You know, I can ask Minnie Mouse or my favorite Disney princess, where's the best pretzel place, and she'll navigate me there. It'd be fantastic. With the VR space, we're seeing a lot of that in workforce training and the enterprise. So Walmart is maybe the best known example of this. They're using VR to train their frontline employees on customer service and human resource issues and things like that. And what's great about it is it's a standard training module. Everybody gets the same training. You can measure the quality. There's analytics and reporting of how people do. So from a corporate perspective, you like that consistency, but also from the trainee perspective, I'm not sitting in a classroom. I'm not just taking notes and being passive. I'm engaged, I'm learning, and I'm doing it through some fun technology. And so you're going to have a much better user experience too. So we're seeing a lot of that. This bottom glasses, this is Focals by North. These are AR glasses, and what I think is particularly exciting about this is the form factor. These look like regular glasses, but I have my own personal heads-up display where I can read my text messages, I can get walking navigation. I'm thinking, since we're in sort of this NASA context, a heads-up display, I mean, that's game-changing. And then for the consumer, I don't wear seeing glasses, but I wear sunglasses all the time. And if I can walk around with AR sunglasses, that would be amazing. And Linkdyne Robotics, this next one, is another member company of ours that I think is particularly cool. There's a lot of companies doing VR training, but what they've done is combine robotics with it. And they do surgical training, they do industrial training, and the robot gives you resistance and adds another layer of feedback. So if you're doing surgical training, you reach for a scalpel, there's a certain weight to that. You reach for a drill, there's a certain weight to it, certain balance. And the robot gives you, that robotic arm gives you that more realistic experience. And as we start moving to 5G, there's opportunities for remote surgeries and these types of applications as well, using whether it's virtual reality, AR, because there's no latency or very little latency, you have the ability to use these technologies. So I think those are particularly interesting. CTA has an ARVR working group too. Some of the things they're working on is we bring together the headset manufacturers and the content providers. So they have conversations about the industry, how they can evolve, what are the trends that they're seeing. And we're coming out later next month with an ARVR for Enterprise report on how enterprises are using this technology and their perceptions and where it's going. So that'll be an interesting research report that comes out. Robots. Everyone loves robots. NASA's rovers have really brought this into our mindset, and now we're finally getting them, which is very exciting. Here's an example from A&K Robots. It's a janitorial robot. We're starting to see security robots. We're starting to see at hospitals robots bringing blood, bringing medicine. So those are starting to be in industrial and enterprise constructs. And there's some personal robots that are coming online as well. Continental has this robot dog, which I think is particularly cool. We talk about the last mile in product and package delivery. So that's you load up one of these autonomous self-driving electric vehicles full of packages. It gets to your neighborhood. The question is, how does it get to your front door, right? So out pops one of these robot dogs that walks around the neighborhood and drops it on your front porch. And so these technologies are coming online now. One of the CTA research reports we recently released on robotics talks about near universal positive views towards household and educational robots. Consumers are aware of them. Consumers are excited about them. They see the impact. People want them. When it comes to some of the other categories you might see, and I think it looks a little pink or beige, these are things that people just are a little less aware of. These are more emerging markets. And the caregiving and healthcare one I think is particularly interesting. As more industrial countries are aging, there's less population, there's less healthcare workers, and we're going to need more robotics and assistance. So Japan's a great example of that. We're going to see more helper robots and companion robots and things like that for folks. And so I would expect that caregiver one to move up as some time goes on. This is, I think, an early snapshot, but I think what it says is people like robots, people want them. As long as they can see the use case for it, they're interested. Some new mobility concepts. So here are some things that I've seen recently that particularly excite me. At CES 2019, Bell came out with their autonomous air taxi. This was something that really got a lot of excitement at the show. Uber is working on an air taxi and some other companies. That's something I think a lot of people are excited about. Is that too futuristic? I think not. I think we'll get there. And then Mercedes Urbanetic. I've seen a couple other companies working on something like this where it's a base, whether you purchase it or however the delivery method is, but it's electric, self-driving, and there's different modular pods you can put on it. So you can imagine you might have it in passenger configuration. You're gonna have to do a Home Depot run the next day. You can send it back to the facility while you're sleeping, and it'll exchange for a cargo pod. And when you wake up in the morning, it's back in your driveway. And you switch it out back again when you're done. Right? So there's opportunities like that for this technology. And it's not just for consumers. Right? So at CES 2019, John Deere brought this giant harvester. Right? Self-driving, 5G, AI, in the near future. And what's great about this is, I can see this, not only will this make farming much more, productive. The machines will know when to harvest. It'll know that it can measure the soil content. It'll know the chemistry. It'll know how to plant. It'll know when to plant. It'll do it fully autonomously in the near term, I predict. And these have applications. If we're going to be going back to the moon, right? What are the applications for this type of technology where these machines can really help us in developing moon bases and this type of thing. So that's quite interesting. Had terrestrial and space considerations. And a lot of these technologies, I think we thought were going to be consumer first, like VR. But we're seeing now VR is not mostly, but it heavily adopted in the workforce training area. I think a lot of us thought it would be for gaming and for entertainment, and corporations have really picked this up. AR for manufacturing, maintenance, repair is becoming ubiquitous. Here's an example of RealWear's headset. It's amazing. You put this thing on, you're looking at, say, an air conditioner or a car, and you can pull up the schematics, you can move them around, you can video chat in an expert, and so the ability to, and you can annotate, and someone can come in and help you all remotely. It's amazing technology. Robots we covered, we're going to be seeing a lot more of those. Self-driving trucks, I think I mentioned. We're going to be seeing those on the open highway. A lot of companies are approaching this from different angles, but we're seeing some of the models that I like are over the long distance open road, open highway. You're going to have self-driving trucks, and then they're going to get to a metropolitan center, and a human driver will take over and take it through the cities, et cetera. You know, in the near term, and then probably second generation, it'll be fully autonomous. But you know, the change in lifestyle for these long haul truckers now, you know, they'll be able to be home a lot more. They'll be able to be in their community. They'll be able to sleep in their own beds at night. And you know, the long distance and sort of fatigue factor, you know, those things will be going away. And when we talk about robots, we talk about self-driving and stuff, you know, the issue of jobs comes up, and we talk about the 3Ds, dull, dirty, and dangerous. Those are the ones that are going to get outphased, and that's fine, because those are the things people don't want to do, right? We don't want people having to do dangerous jobs. And so with the self-driving robotics, I think that's a real positive trend. And all of this is through harnessing 5G and AI, right? These are the ingredient technologies that are going to power this fourth industrial revolution that we're all very excited about. And I think we're quite privileged to be living in a time where we're on the cusp of this. You know, I was promised a hoverboard a long time ago. I never got one. And so I'm waiting for the self-driving car. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Here's how you can find out a little bit more about us. I'll be around for a little while if you have any questions. And thank you for your time.